Hello, happy Saturday. Ooh, I should move this way over. Clatter, clatter, clatter. There we go. Now you can hear me. Happy Saturday. I got most of this set up. Most of it. A decent bit of it. Put my data over there. Actually, no, I'm not going to need my data for a minute. I'll put it over here. A little more out of the way. And then let's unpack our friend. So this is the Juvenile Robin that I started last week. So it's completely skinned out already. And distressingly flat. And we're going to want this to look like a bird again. Oh wow, it's still really cold on the inside. It's actually a little bit frozen still. Cool. Oh, doesn't hurt anything. Where can I put this? Boom, right there. Oh, Chardon Mom, sorry. No, it's not you. I just have the cover page while I'm doing last minute setup stuff. Other people, they have like an intro page that is animated in some way, so that probably would have made you feel better if it was like, you are on hold, taxidermy will be soon, or something like that. So I'll see what I can set up, maybe. To go beyond my very simplistic, things are gonna happen, I just have to get all my stuff set up. And inevitably, I'm always still adjusting something, like moving my mic, or whatever, but I do try. There's a bunch of molt down here. Have I noticed that before? I think that's molt. Okay. Well, if memory serves correctly with this guy, it still says offline. That's weird. That I couldn't tell you. Maybe just Twitch has a bit of a duration to get things set up. That's a little strange. Not sure. Okay, well, I'm gonna get picking at this guy a little bit. Did I ever get the alcohol? No. So when last we left our hero, being this little dead bird, I had found a bunch of fly eggs, and I had intended to contact an entomologist I know to try and get them ID'd. And, it was Christmas. Did you guys know it was Christmas week and people are real hard to get a hold of in their professional channels right now? So, yeah, I'll bother him in the future when he's not on vacation, like a well-deserved human being should not be bothered on vacation. So with these fly eggs, I'm just going to go on the assumption that they are standard fly eggs. These are probably some sort of flesh fly that just put their eggs in a kind of a weird spot for reasons that I don't understand because I'm not a fly, and I'm not going to worry about it too much. Because since there's no damage to the tissue underneath them, I mean, they're eggs though, so maybe once the little maggoty maggots had hatched, they would have had different results. But I think, because there's this little bit of a spot on the back of the guy's head, but it's not like a really bad wound. I think it's mostly it might even just be mostly fly eggs and their associated, like, shmoo. So, I'm not going to worry about that too much. I will record it and, provide descriptions of the eggs and whatever like that, and I'm sure I won't get absolutely every single one of them out. You know what? I do want a little bit of alcohol. Hold on a second. I'm going to get some alcohol to rub these off on, because that's just gross. Okay, that took more effort than I thought. Found my rubbing alcohol, and then I just need a small vessel to put it in. This will work. It currently contains nothing. Okay. Close that door, because cats. So I'm used to putting something like fly eggs and alcohol as like a what you do to make sure they're dead, which of course is completely unnecessary for how long they've been stored away. But you know what? It makes me feel better, and then I won't accidentally drag the bird through them because they're on the corner of my little mat here. So if I have them stored away in alcohol, then it's just a done deal and they're out of my face. Because, you know, fly eggs. I don't need that stuck to the back of my hand. Alright, so let's get a few more of these guys out of here. There's that good isopropyl alcohol smell. Smells like doctor's office. Yeah, I think, you know, ruminating about finding all this stuff last week and then looking at it again, I think it is just flesh fly eggs, and there's just a lot of them. Hello, Zeggy. What is up? Oh, it's just a lot of fly eggs. Little friend, you're just coated. Man. I mean, seeing a lot of fly eggs is pretty normal. If a fly's going to bother, they're just going to dump a ton of kids on there and hope some of them make it to adulthood. That's a pretty classic method if you are a prey animal. And a lot of things eat flies, so have a lot of kids, I guess. And if you're going to have a lot of kids, I guess you lay a lot of eggs in the back of this poor particular dead robin. Jeez, there's just a lot. And the fly eggs have a small amount of like a adhesive on them, so they stick to things. And so they're in there. They're in this bird's hair in a way that is nasty. But we're gonna get this out of the way. We're gonna play with fly eggs now, and then we'll move on to making this a beautiful stuffed robin, and it will be fine. Move past this point. I will, if anybody wants to see it, I'm happy to show you guys the large number of these that are going to be in the alcohol when I'm done, because it'll be extra obvious how many I pulled off since I'm putting them in a separate container now. Because, oh my gosh, this is a lot. And there's no damage to the skin, so the nice thing is this bird never had to deal with these flies, I'm pretty sure. This is definitely a post-mortem infestation. And I'm definitely getting alcohol in the feathers. It shouldn't be a problem. They'll still fluff up really nicely. I'll use alcohol, isopropyl alcohol, which is, you know, the stuff that you just get at the drugstore, to clean stuff all the time. It's a nice, fairly gentle, easy thing that kills, you know, bacteria, which is why we like using it for all sorts of purposes. But they're just so in here. There's just a lot of them. Yeah, the more I pick at this, I thought there was like an abscess under here, but I think what I was actually just seeing was more stuck together fly eggs. Ugh, a lot. It's a lot. Like, you guys can see this big white kind of blob in here. That's just blobs of them. That's just a lot of fly eggs. So the specimen was sitting around long enough that flies had a chance to land on it, but the kids didn't have a chance to hatch. I think that's one of those things that there's somebody somewhere who knows that exactly what that duration would be then, how long a body can sit out between flies landing on it versus maggots hatching. I think that's like one of those crime scene things, but I do not know that. This is a lot of fly eggs. I keep saying that, but I mean it every time. Oh my god. Like, and the thing that was screwing me up last week is the location of these fly eggs. They're not by any of the openings of the body, which is usually where flesh flies put them. And in hindsight, I was mulling over this for a week because this is very engaging, finding this much gross on a bird. And I think I might have been giving the flies too much credit. Like of course they're going to prefer to be near the openings, but if there's some reason they couldn't get to the eyes and the mouth, like let's say there's a big old hornet hanging out there in the way, or it's dirty or whatever, then they're probably just like, the maggots will figure it out, and they might have just laid their eggs and moved on because you're a fly, you don't have a lot of processing power, and I can't imagine you make long, well thought out decisions. So that's my current hypothesis, is the fly is just like, I'm a fly, I've got other fly stuff to do, I'm gonna put some eggs on here and leave, and what happens will happen. But that is purely speculation, not based on talking to an entomologist, which I still intend to do at some point. After the holiday, when people are at their desks, because Christmas is a major American holiday and people aren't answering their emails. As they should not. I hope everybody is doing relaxing, at-home things, spending lots of time video chatting with family, all that good stuff, instead of answering my question about flies. Total respect. So gross. Although scientists who don't take breaks do happen, and so earlier today on Twitch I was watching a fantastic channel called When Diatoms Attack, or just Diatom Attack, which is a researcher who researches diatoms, which are microscopic little organisms, and it was funny to watch him trying to stream without his grad students backing him up, because usually he has a whole posse of grad students keeping up with his chat and whatever. But he had a system, it was nice. But people are still out there doing the science. Alright. There might be one or two left that I missed somehow, but I'm not seeing them. So. Okay, so right now he's got bad hair, but at least it's not full of flies. I still can't believe how gross that was. Alright, let me see if I can find that other blob that was on his back. It was back in the feather tracks. Is that something? Where are you? No, that's a wood shaving. That's different. It was somewhere back here. Oh, there we go. Yeah, this is so weird. They're just like all inside the feathers. I've never seen them buried this deep in the feathers. This continues to sort of weird me out. Like, the bird must have been laying in such a way on the sidewalk that the feathers were, like, spread apart. So there was a weird, channel that the flies could have gotten into to be able to lay them this deep. Because you guys, you've seen flies land on your sandwich. They don't really dig around. They sit on it for a second and then move on. And that's how they lay their eggs, too, is they'll sit there for a minute, but they're not, like, parting the feathers and trying to get into the perfect spot. It's a fly. It's all about being fast. Such a weird bird. Back here, I'm almost certainly not going to be able to get all of the fly eggs out, just because they're so embedded in the feathers, and I don't want to, like, damage the feathers. I don't want to be pulling anything loose that I want to keep, So this is going to be a question of getting, an optimal just mass out and then moving on with my day. And I wouldn't want to do this step once the bird is stuffed. You know, once he's set, you want it to kind of get hands off as fast as possible so the feathers will lay right and the specimen will be kind of settled. So now when it's just a flat skin is the time to really screw around and do weird projects like this. But even this, like, holding it in my warm hands is damaging the skin. You know, the heat from my hands will stimulate whatever bacteria is present that, you know, can start breaking it down. So I don't want to hold on to it too long. Okay, this is interesting. The flags on the back seem to be smaller. Maybe this is something else. So weird. And it's a lot. This still is a lot. I keep waiting to be done. So that's sort of the nice thing about usually having to pick flies out of, like, mouths and eyes and stuff is it's a pretty distinct area and then you're just done. Combing them out of feathers is a very different and much more labor-intensive endeavor. I'm more and more glad that I have this alcohol here. For one thing, having the ends of my tweezers get wet is really, really helpful. And for another, I can really see how much I'm picking off this bird, and it's absurd, and I will show you. It's crazy. Chardon Mom, you said, are you going to use any of your new toys tonight? Oh, now it says I'm online. Well, that's good. No, not tonight. Although I did use my new microcloth to wipe off my screen, so I guess I did that. But I won't be making tea, which is one of the gifts I'm very excited about. So for anybody who didn't say, oh, hey, not here, I got some cool stream-related gifts from viewers and family, so I won't be pulling out a lot of that tonight. But I'm excited by all of it. Is this more, or is this wood shavings? That's wood shavings, okay. Okay. Alrighty. Whoop. I just had to say that, and then of course I find more. So, not here. You're at a very exciting part. I'm trying to remove all those fly eggs I found last week. Time to get those out of there. And I might choose to save them since I've got them in this little container. It does have a top, and then I could potentially hunt down more information about what they might be. But the one entomologist I was able to chat with, who's not a fly expert, they're more into bees. They're like, yeah, insect eggs are just notoriously hard to ID. So, not a great outlook there. You know, I'm gonna call that good. I think I got the majority. My gosh, that's a lot. Let's see, can you... Yeah. So, like... Let me change my focus a little bit. Mr. Frightful, no, I did not get a story about the fly eggs because it is... I know this is a shock to everybody, but it's the week of Christmas and people aren't answering their professional emails. Weird, I know. And I hope they're all having a nice time with their families and eating and sleeping and things instead of answering my gross emails. Not here, you said, what do you put them in? Is it just water? No, this is isopropyl alcohol. It's kind of a habit. Isopropyl alcohol is a great thing to put actual living fly eggs in if you're picking them off of something. Same thing with ticks. If you ever pick a tick off of yourself or your pet, throwing it in some isopropyl alcohol is good. It'll kill it right away. And so it mostly just makes me feel less gross. Yeah, these have been frozen and thawed multiple times. These are dead. These fly eggs are dead. They will not ever turn into flies, whether or not I put them in ISO. So it's more of a habit, but it makes me feel a little less icky. Like, I have a pretty high grody tolerance. I'm gonna, I do. But man, fly eggs. So putting them in the ISO just makes me feel a little better. So yeah, there's my bunch. It's a lot. That's the most I think I've ever picked off a specimen. And to have none of them be by a mucous membrane is very weird still. It's really weird. So I may save these to bug an entomologist. We'll find out. But for now, they're off the bird. And those are the only two areas that I had seen the eggs in. Let me change my focus back. Okay. So I don't think I'm going to be finding any more little friends on here, but if I do, they can join everybody else in the alcohol. So, yeah. So I don't have a good update. I don't know why the insects were not by a mucous membrane, which is standard for if you're a fly landing on a dead thing. I don't have any explanations for why they're in these strange spaces. The best speculation I have is that flies are just going to make quick decisions. They're not going to really ponder the issue. So if they can't easily get to the bird's mucous membranes because there's another bug sitting on it, or a leaf, or, I don't know. It might have been like, here's good enough. Good luck, kids. Bloop. And just laid their eggs. I think I might have been overthinking it last week, but I got excited. So, I don't know. Oh, yeah. So you also need to buy some isopropyl. Yeah, this is the isopropyl I just have in my bathroom. It's just good stuff to have available if you need to do a quick disinfecting or other stuff. If you just really need your house to smell like doctor's office. Yeah, okay. So there was like one or two more little eggs left there, so I grabbed them. But let's get this guy back together. I'll be happier just to have it be a finished specimen than to keep pondering over bizarre, disgusting things I'm finding on the back of its head. So, it's not easy to get by you guys for some reason. You have to mail order it. Oh, weird. I mean, there's lots of restrictions on various volatile chemicals, and it is a pretty volatile chemical, so I can see various local ordinances be like, meh, move on. Restrict it to medical use or something. Okie dokie. I might have a little decay happening down here on the bottom of the belly, so I gotta be careful when I'm putting this guy together. But, okay. So, here's my bird. There's a bird. So it's a totally flat, empty skin that now that it's been somewhat tidied, man, these kind of messed up. It's time to make it look three-dimensional again. And so for anybody who hasn't seen my stream before, this bird will not look lifelike when I'm done. That's not my goal. This will be a research specimen, so it'll be a torpedo-looking bird. It's probably got an over 18 on it, maybe. Oh god, drinking isopropyl alcohol will get you in the hospital real fast, though. So yeah, I'm a little worried about that. Oh, let's just get rolling. Let's put this guy together, and then I won't have to worry anymore. Okay, so this is one I've been trying to perfect my technique of doing these more medium-sized birds. My forte is tiny birds, and this is a little bit on the upper edge of the size range that I do. I mean, I've done big birds. I've done hawks. But in terms of the ones that I can just like pound out, it's little birds. These bigger ones, I'm still trying to get better at it. There's a lot of room for growth, let's just say. And so some of the steps I'll do with this guy are exactly the same as I would do with a little teeny bird. Some things are pretty darn different. I don't think I have to remove any more of that palette. That looks pretty okay. Okay. So, this bird is a skin. And so I have removed almost all the bones. There's a few left. There's a little bit of a skull left. I left the front of the skull in place so that it could hold the beak on. The back of his skull is totally gone. No, Mr. Frightful, I thought you were here for that joke. We have the example sheet that we used in my lab for how to fill out the form for an example bird, the example bird was Big Bird. So yeah, we we actually went through the entire Sesame Street wiki and a couple of other sources that we could find online to try and get his measurements and his species name and a bunch of other stuff so we could actually fill out, you know, his scientific name, which is Canarius immensis or something like that. Yeah, so no, the Big Bird joke has been thoroughly done, trust me. I want only the best feelings knowing that we have covered that particular macabre joke to the nines. Have no fear. Alright. Ooh, although in honor of that joke, I think I'm going to use yellow thread tonight, because that's funny. Woo! Save my reasonable colored ones, but I have this yellow thread that just is begging to be used, so go for the milder yellow. So, differences and similarities with doing a bigger bird like this. The differences are I need to add more structure. I need to add more strength to my mount. Little birds are so small that just, you know, a poof of cotton can hold the shape and it's not going to be particularly floppy. A big guy like this, I need to start adding more support and give the overall structure of the specimen greater longevity, basically. So it could be handled while it's being researched, things like that. So I want to do the steps that are the same for my smaller specimens that'll work. Like I'm going to use this initial piece of thread to tie the wings together to create false shoulders. That's easy. I can do it with a little piece of thread. It's a very simple kind of part of the structure. I don't have to worry about it. But like the overall, the stick that I'll be using for the new backbone, things like that, I'm going to want to up my game a little bit. I made a mistake with an earlier bird where I used a thin dowel like I'm used to using for warblers. I could do better. So I have a couple options here of what I'm going to try. Because then a later bird, I went too big and I used a big honking piece of wire, which I think was overkill. So, you know, I got to find that happy medium. Okay, and I have my regular gross warning up. So for anybody who missed it last week, here's the bird's original body. Right there, that's the entire little roast chicken. So this is the front of the torso, this is the belly down here, and the stump of the neck is up here. This is a shoulder bleeding through the bag there, or bleeding against the bag. And so I know how big, you know, like my body needs to be because there it is. It's pretty great. And in this case, I want to know how far apart the shoulders need to be. I'm leaving it in the bag because this one's pretty juicy. But my shoulders currently... Oh, and for anybody who hasn't seen this before, so you see these two bones here? These are the two bones of the forearm. So the big one's the ulna, and then the top one, the smaller one on the top is the radius. And this end is actually the elbow, so I took off the upper arm. The humerus is gone. And then it leads to the wrist, and the hand and the wrist are still inside the skin here. So these are bones I'll be leaving behind. They're small enough they'll just dry out. I'm not worried about it harming the specimen or harboring too much moisture. And they'll give me structure and make my wings look better, so I can keep these little bones. So what I want to do to make shoulders is actually not to replace like the humerus and the actual shoulder, but instead I tie the wrists together. Because when birds are at rest, they hold their wrists at their shoulder level. So I can do a really snappy little thing and make fake shoulders via wrists, because birds are weird. So I will just tie one end of my thread to start with. I will tie it. It'll be great. Come on, man. Tie a knot. There we go. Oh, yeah, no, I need my tweezers for this. There are some knots, and with the thread, I find an easier time doing with tweezers at this point. So, fine. There it is. Okay. And so my bird is, you know, the body's about that wide. So this is, again, the stump of the neck. Here's the collarbone, things like that. So if I want it to be that big apart, I actually have to stretch these maybe a little more. So they need to be roughly that far apart. So if I hold this here, and then with one hand tie this. Yeah, nothing like a one-handed knot, right? Okay, that's one loop. And get this other one. It's hard to tie a loose length like this. Like if I was just tying them together, it's easy. You just, cinch it and you're done. But trying to maintain that distance takes a little bit. And it's pretty forgivable. I can be a little long or a little short and it'll be fine. Although it's better to err on it being a little generous. Alright, so I'll put my excesses. Okay. So I've tied my shoulders together, or my wrists together to make my shoulders. And now all I have to do is just pop those back into shape. So put them back inside the wing. And just slide that bone back into the pocket where it originally was. So I'm basically putting the elbow back in the little pouch of skin where the elbow belongs. And you can see how my feathers are just already like laying really nicely. They kind of naturally rest against their original position. And so that already is just a nice looking wing. And then do it on the other side. All right. Yeah, so that looks pretty good. So I've got my two wings, and you can see they just automatically kind of lay nicely. That's already, like, the rest of the bird is all twisted and weird and flat, but the wings look real nice. So that first set just kind of gets me into a good place. Next up, let's give him eyes. Let's put some little eyeballs in there. I didn't save the eyes from last time, so for anybody who missed that, I apologize. They're huge and gross. Mr. Frightful, you said, would a jig be any use? Like a tongue depressor with notches on it to hook the wrists while you tension the cotton? Maybe. Yeah, so if you had some little thing that would actually hold it to the point that you want, and then you could tie it, absolutely. So that's one that, yes, if you had a tool that would solve that problem, I totally can see that being really, really valuable. It would just have to be something that would be delicate enough that it'd be holding tension, on these little delicate bones very gently. So, yeah, tongue depressor with notches in it probably wouldn't be precise enough. But there's probably a way. So, yes, I mean, honestly, you could even just have a ball of, like, clay that you stick the wrist bones in, and so the skin side is up like a weird tent, and then you're tying from that point of view. Yeah, so at this point, I'm pretty good at doing it just by hand. And it's funny, I do it holding the specimen up because I train so many people that I'm often, okay, here's how you do it, I have to hold it up. And so that works for Twitch. But for the people in my lab, I actually have to train them to do it down, where they're holding the specimen down and letting gravity or the surface they're working on help them a little bit more. But I'm so used to doing this in like a demonstration point of view that I'm fighting gravity, because I'm like, oh look, I'm up in the air, so everybody has a better point of view. So I'd say that 100% there's like 1,000 better ways to do it than that. That are just harder to see or would need a tool or a little more setup. So, but no, I like where your mind is at. You're thinking with your thinker, and I appreciate that. Okay. So let's make some eyeballs. So birds have rockin' huge eyeballs that you can't see. Most of it's behind the skin of their face. And so I need to make model eyeballs. And I'm just using cotton. I'm not using glass eyes. This is going to be a research specimen. I'm not paying the money to put real fancy eyes in it when it's just there to live in a drawer and be available for research. The researchers know it's dead. They don't need lifelike, beautiful eyes. I'm sure they wouldn't mind, but I don't need that. Okay, so this might be a little small, but we're going to start with this size. This part's always a little bit of a trick because I'm taking a dry ball of cotton and pushing it through a slightly wet tube. I'll let everybody just figure that one out, but it's hard to do, and it sticks a lot. Make whatever allusions to potential personal experience you may have. Let's see. But this is sometimes the very first one that I'll put up here becomes so gross from any, you know, residual blood and stuff in the neck that I actually end up throwing it away. This one's okay. Oh, it might be too small, though. Let's see. No, it's alright. It's a little on the small side. But... And you can tell it's small because it's almost falling out. You want it to be a little bigger than the actual aperture so it doesn't just fall right out. So I'm going to make the next one just a smidge bigger. But it should be okay. And you do want it buggy and weird. Buggy and weird eyes are perfect at this stage. Well, that's maybe too big. Because as I handle the bird's head and just move it around, you end up pushing them slightly back in. So you start with them a little dumb looking, a little buggy, and on the balance, they then kind of naturally fall back in as you're working on it and it looks a little better. Every once in a while I still actually have to tuck them in, but usually I'm pretty happy with weird buggy eyes. I mean, who wouldn't be? Okay. Oh yeah, that one's a much better size. That one I'm not worried at all. It's just going to fall out. So, okay. So there. Now he's got his new set of eyes. Immediately it looks more like a bird than having like that empty, you know, saggy face. Humans care about faces, we care about eyes, and so even if they're like creepy cotton eyeballs, it just instantly looks a little better. So. Okay. So we have now shoulders and eyes. This is already starting to look much more like a bird. Pretty happy with that. Here's where I have to start deviating from my old things, and I'm trying new stuff, and I'm trying to get better methods here. How do I make the body here? So if I was going to do a warbler, what I would do is I would have some sort of stick with a little cotton ball at the end that I'd put in first to shore up the back. So that becomes the backbone. It actually rests against the skin in the back, goes up through his head, and starts to create the form. And then I would take another form of cotton, just pure cotton, that I've rolled into like a little cylinder, a little teardrop shape, and set it on top. I'm trying to evolve past that with these larger birds. I just want it to have a little bit more strength. And so I've got two kind of areas of how I want to do this. I guess three different things I'm trying. One is what stick to use for the background. I used wire a previous time for a larger bird. I didn't love it. And so I have two options that I could try here, both of which are vaguely funny. First of all, for anybody who hadn't seen these yet, when I went to buy skewers, the cheapest option I could find was to buy ones that had strange little paw prints on them. They were really cheap. A box of like 150 of these cost me $1. So, okay, so I have these that I just have to rip the flags off. And what I could do is bundle these three together, and that'll create a stronger skewer than just the one. And it's just barely long enough, but it's a little on the short side, so I don't love this as an option. I have a set of terrible chopsticks. These are the worst chopsticks I have seen in years. Got these with takeout sushi, so take that as you will. And they're just like splintered heaven. Like, I think I picked the biggest splinter off the bottom. Yeah, but the whole thing, you crack the whole thing apart and it just has these long splinters. And I'm like, nope, no, I'm not eating with that. I'll die. So I have these terrible chopsticks. But though they may be bad as a food utensil, this could actually be a pretty decent backbone for my bird. So as I'm holding this, it's a little thick. I might want to par it down a little, but it's a good length. So let's play with this guy. Can I just like split this? Will this just be friendly? No. No, it won't. I can whittle it. Just nibble some bits off of this. This is just, I don't know what this wood is. It's not bamboo, let me tell you. It's like balsa. These are terrible chopsticks. These are the worst chopsticks ever. That's not really working. I guess I could just leave it kind of big. You know, make the top end a little narrower. Let's trim off a little bit more. Yeah, the grain on this is just terrible. I don't know how well you guys can see that, but these are pretty awful. Alright. That'll probably work. I'm not really worried about splinters inside the bird, because I'm planning on wrapping other stuff around this. So the fact that there's nasty hanger-off things does not bother me. Nasty hanger-off thing is, of course, a technical term. Okay. And then where's my original body? It's a good rule of thumb that you want to still keep in mind how long your original body was. If you just measure off the skin can be easily deformed right now because, of course, it's just empty. And so it doesn't, the measuring with that doesn't do you any good. This is, it'll lie to you. This is how big the actual bird was. Its entire spine is in here. So if I make this just a little bit bigger to account for the, like the neck and things, this is a much more accurate representation. So for here, I probably could snap it, but I'm worried it'll snap badly. Let's just trim that off. There, so that's probably a good length for my friend here. Yeah, I think that's actually pretty nice. Maybe a little generous. I can always trim it down. You know what? I will. I'll trim it just a little bit. This is new new material. I haven't used a chopstick before, so this is a little different. All right. So there's my stick. And then, so that's thing one. Thing one is I have a different stick, different kind of setup for that. Thing two is to make my cotton body, before it was just like a solid piece of cotton, I've been trying to add in Excelsior and a greater amount of structure to that body. So I can get this into place first, but then I think what I want to do is make a body model that's a little bit stronger, a little bit better, and then tie that securely to this string, or to this stick, which I'm starting to do even with my little guys. I think it's just a better method. So trying new stuff, new things, now that I am doing these streams and I have time to, like, muse. Okay. Alright, so there, that covers all of the burrs and stuff like that. I don't have to worry about those as much. Actually, I want to rough up the end just a smidgety. So I want my cotton to stick on the end. There we go. So I've already stuffed half the bird's head with eyeballs, effectively. And then I just want to add a little bit more to the end of this stick to fill in a lot of the back of his brain. And then actually when I place the body, that'll include a piece that goes up the neck and also adds structure to the head. So I don't have to have like a perfect filler. That's not what I'm going for here. Maybe a little more. If you're doing artificial eyes, you actually have to be a little more... The whole method of doing the head is different because you have to have something that the eyes can seat into. So usually that's... You fill, like, most or all of the head with clay and then actually seat the eyes in the clay, and then you can, like, adjust them so they're looking in the correct directions, and it's a whole different world. It's cool looking when you do it, but very different method from just cotton. That's probably sufficient. Okay, so I'm putting the stick underneath the string that I have in the wrists. Ooh, although the extra cotton on here is making that difficult. Ah, see? Okay, here's something different. Haven't come across that issue before because I haven't really done this with a nasty splinter-covered chopstick. Alright. It's fine. It's weird. It's fine. And now let's get this in the birdie head. So this is an even larger cotton ball, which you can clearly see through his skin. So it looks like the cotton ball just came right out of his neck. It didn't. That skin is perfect and intact. Their skin is just so thin that it's completely transparent. It's completely see-through. Which is why a lot of people don't like working on bird taxidermy. Little birds like this are tough because that skin is so fragile. Because it's so dang thin. Whereas people I was talking to online the other day, if you're doing a rabbit, I just pull on it. Who cares? It's a rabbit. There's a reason we make leather out of rabbits and cows and things and not robins. Okay. It's not... Okay, it's not bad. It's got enough tension that I can move the head around. Might need a little bit more stuffing eventually, but I can go in through the mouth or something if I really need to add more. But that's looking bird-like and creepy. The creepy puppet test is a time-honored tradition of making sure that that's in there properly. Okay. So now I have to take a second and straighten everything out. The cotton, especially having it on the stick, is causing the skin to not just naturally flow back to wherever it was. It's sticking to the cotton, which is kind of good. It gives me a little bit more control, but it's kind of bad because then I actually have to pay attention and do the work. You know, so pros and cons. I think I would rather have the control, but being spoiled and just having it look good with no effort is pretty cool. So, you know. Yeah, I just gotta seat the neck evenly here. I think that's okay. Alright, and again, just kind of letting him sit, looking birdish. Oop, oh, this wing's twisted. There we go. That looks better. Alright. So I'm going to let that sit for a second, and I have to make a new body. So this is the part I gotta... it's still a little bit of a method in progress. Figure out how I want to do this. Let's move those up so I don't forget them. Okay. So you, my friend, sit there. I'm going to grab a little bit of Excelsior. So this is Excelsior. It's also known as wood wool, which I find endearing. I grabbed way more than I possibly would need, but it's easier to grab a big chunk than a little bit. But this, I've had pretty good luck so far having this be like the center of the body form. And then... I'll start with that little piece. Oh, there's just... It's everywhere. Okay. Oh. So wood wool is nice. Anybody who's used this, florists love it. It makes, nice packing material. It's nice and natural. And in my case, because it's nice and natural, this is a different inert cellulose. Pretty much everything I'm stuffing my birds with is an inert cellulose. So inert means that it's not... it's basically the opposite of volatile. So things that are volatile change easily. Things that are inert either do not change or hardly change. So that's your kind of, the two different ends of your hot-cold here is inert and volatile. So, like, isopropyl alcohol is volatile. If I just leave it, if I left this out all night, by tomorrow morning it might be completely empty because it's just evaporating so fast because it's a really volatile substance. So that's kind of one end. This stuff is a dry fiber, and the way that the cellulose is structured, not a lot of stuff eats it. So there's not a lot of bacteria that would attack this. There's not a lot of fungus that would attack it as long as it remains dry. And so it will just sit unchanged for decades, hundreds of years potentially, if it's kept in a dry, neutral environment. And so cotton does the same thing. Cotton largely doesn't change if you just let it sit in a dry environment. As soon as things get wet, it changes. It rots, it harbors all sorts of horrible things, and it changes. But a cellulose like this is inert, so it basically, everything changes eventually, but it very slowly. It doesn't really want to change. So it makes a great core, and so the other nice thing is it is both flexible, and once I put it into a shape, it stays there. So I can just go like this and start mashing it into the shape I want. I want a slightly conical little roasted chicken shape with a flat side and a curved side. So there we go, right? I've got my flat side, I've got my curved side. This is like the belly end. Can mush that down a little bit more. This is like the big breast muscle end. So I have an incredibly, incredibly rough form that mirrors this guy. So I might have to take this out of the bag pretty soon. Actually, I got the length on that pretty good. Cool. Do I want cable? Yeah, I want cable. 1 second. More toys. Alright, I have a pretty lightweight butcher's twine. This is just cotton cabling. I have way thicker versions. This one's kind of a thin version. But I like using this stuff when I'm making my little forms, because this is obviously just fluff. I can just moosh it and squeeze it, and it'll just fall apart. You can see all the little flyaways. So I've got the very beginnings of a form, but it has no strength, it has no structure. So I can take my cotton thread. And again, cotton is another inert cellulose, so I can just put it on here, and it will stay largely unchanged for the next couple hundred years, so it's good for this. And this is one of those gently but firmly things. I'm wrapping the form now gently but firmly. So I don't want to squish it. I could just, just cinch it, and I would get big, like, channels where the cables are. I don't want that. I want it to still have that original shape I gave it as much as possible. But it's got to be on there tight enough it's actually doing something. So if I just loosely drape it around it doesn't do me any good. It's setting my rules here. I got to make sure it actually, like, does a thing. And I might get to the point where I really don't even see the Excelsior anymore, and I don't care, I don't need to. It's not a visually appealing material. It's not bad. I'm not trying to be down on it. Okay. And the cool thing about this is, let's say I made this body and it was way too small, like way, way, way too small. Then I would just pack more Excelsior on top of it and wrap it again. Who cares? Like, it doesn't matter if I have to do multiple layers or things like that. In this case, I'm definitely going to be adding some cotton to it. And, you know, if I decide I need more or less cotton, I just edit it. It's fine. I like working with stuff that's very forgiving. What can I say? Okay, so I have my weird little mummy. It's pretty narrow, but my body was pretty narrow, so I'm actually going to get the body out so we can do a more direct compare here. Pull up. Get a little paper towel. Okay, so that's not bad. Like, the new body without any cotton layering is definitely a little narrower than my my main body. What do we got? The actual width of my torso at the widest point, not counting the knees, is almost exactly 30 millimeters. And so my body at its widest point, or similar point, is 23. So it's significantly narrower. And so my question would be, do I want to add a little bit more Excelsior to give this more structure, or do I want to just add cotton? I'm going to lean on the side of cotton, 2 reasons. It's what I'm used to, which is fine. Starting from your area of strength is fine, so I'm going to stick with the material I'm most familiar with. So I'm going to do with that. And the other reason is I can just keep adding layers with a little more nuance than the Excelsior. The Excelsior, when you put stuff on it, tends to add a layer really quickly. So I think the cotton will actually be better to add, to build it up a little bit slower. So I'm going to do it that way. I'm going to take this nasty old body and put it over here. It is really juicy. Getting blood all over my stuff. Lap. Okay. I don't need that. Okay. Okay. So here's what I'm going to try and kind of hybridize my old method. So if I was doing, again, a warbler body, it would have been 100% cotton. And with I take a little cotton ball as a core and kind of wrap it around. In this case, I have this as my core. So I'm still going to do a sheet, which if there's any Beecher people on, this is kind of the new thing I really want to try. So you guys take note. Beecher being the lab that I used to run, for anybody who has not come across that in my stream yet. And I miss it dearly. Screw you, coronavirus. Yeah, my lab was great. We were on the floor of the museum, and just chatting to visitors and weirding them out, and it was wonderful. We were definitely the highlight for school groups and, a lot of people who came and saw us. It was really cool. We once got serenaded by a group of, I don't know, second graders maybe? It was incredible. Like, these kids just started singing because... What are we working on? I don't even remember what the specimen was, but somehow the conversation turned to amphibians. And somebody asked the kids, hey, do you guys know what an amphibian is? And they broke into song about amphibians. And all activity in the lab stopped, as we're all just jaws on the floor, like, watching these kids with a clear practice sing to us about identifying toad, frog, pollywog, and it was amazing. So we wrote them a thank you note. Like, I actually went and chased down the education department. I'm like, okay, there was a class here today and they did this thing. Which school was that? Can I reach their educator? And they were able to let us know which school that was so we could send them a thank you note. It was adorable. You can find the song Toad, Frog, Pollywog on YouTube being sung by weird little animated frogs. So if you're really curious, you can Google that, and it's very cute. But it was way cuter in person, with all of us not expecting to suddenly be serenaded about amphibians. The unexpected amphibian song. So I was just already making this the width of a warbler. This is not a warbler, so I'm just going to turn that on its side. Suddenly it's way wider, and this will work for me much better for the bird I'm actually working on. It's so weird when you realize you have a rut. Sometimes the rut is so comfy that you don't even see it. You don't know you're in it. And yeah, I have a warbler rut, which sounds like it should be a scientific term for something, and maybe it is. I have no idea. But in this particular case, it's not. It's a metaphor. But, yeah. Keep an eye out for when you have fallen into habits that maybe need to be at least scrutinized. Some habits are good. You end up doing things over and over again because it works. It's legit. But, in this particular case, I think the birds I was making before that were on the larger side weren't as good, and I could do better. Once the New Year has passed and people are back in their offices and answering their work emails, I also am going to see if I can pester any of the people I knew at the Field Museum to see if I can get pointers on doing larger birds too, because there's a lot of really knowledgeable people out there. I know somebody who's at the Museum of Ohio University in Harvard, Ohio, who's a very good museum preparator, and I could just email him. Like, everything's virtual anyway. Just poke him, be like, "Yo, dog, what you doing? Tell me your secrets. Tell me your weird specimen prep secrets." I don't know, maybe that's a bad way to lead the conversation. Then again, know your audience, I suppose. Now I just want to do that. Now I just want to email Steve and be like, "Yo, dog, divulge your taxidermy-related secrets." He would probably write back an annoyed but amused response. Because that's one thing, anybody I've ever met who does specimen prep like this does have a sense of humor. They can be weird. They can be weird senses of humor, but you're definitely going to have an immediate and an evident sense of humor if people are doing prep. I've met some pretty straight-laced fossil preparators, so fossil prep people can be kind of like very serious, studious face. But if they're doing birds, they're doing extant things, nah, there's humor there. Because, man, if you want to meet someone who is remarkably focused and possibly entirely without humor, you can talk to the people who do the anthill fossils. There's a lot of things that have been fossilized. Time is big. The reality is huge. There's been a lot of different species over the, billions and billions of years that the Earth has existed. And one of the types of fossils that is researched are anthill fossils, where the anthill, of course, is negative space in dirt. So sometimes you find it. Sometimes it filled in with a different sort of dirt, like mud filled it in, and then you get the negative space filled in with a trace fossil, which is really quite cool. Additionally, or instead of, sometimes that anthill didn't particularly fill in, but the tiny, tiny bits of trash that the ants left in their little, trash areas fossilize. And so you can get tiny fossils out of that. And so what you have are these weird openings in the earth that contain a little bowl full of teeny, teeny, teeny little fossils. And so there are magical fossil prep human beings, again, with maybe not as much humor as I'm used to, who will sit there with a microscope and tweezers moving nothing molar, nothing toe, blah blah, and they're finding the microfossils of vertebrates that are this big, kind of thing, like the earliest mammals and tiny little reptiles and stuff like that. The fossils are just absurd. And it's so cool because when you look through one of their microscopes when they find something, you're like, that is in fact a tiny molar. I agree with you 100%. And then you look at the pile of other stuff that they already went through and determined was nothing, and you realize that these people are all heroes. So, maybe very straight-laced heroes, but heroes of science nonetheless. I love making these sheets of cotton, by the way. This is one of the more like zen things you can do in the lab, especially if you're chatting with people, is you create these sheets of cotton with which you can then roll and make your body forms. At the Field Museum, they had more expensive cotton that already came pre-rolled, and so you could actually just unroll a sheet and go to town. Fine. My lab didn't have that budget. My workshop here doesn't have that kind of budget. I can just take cotton and form it into a sheet myself. Because, yeah, check this out. Ooh, beautiful sheet. There it is. Cotton sticks to itself. It's magic. Okay. So, now is where I do something that I've never tried before. So I'm going to take this body form, and I'm going to roll it in this cotton. I'm going to move you for a second, little bird friend. Let's put you over here. To see if I can create the shape I want. Because what I'm going for is I want this wrapped in cotton to a width. Yeah, no, Mega, I'm trying new things. I want this to the width that actually matches the body. And additionally, I want a cylinder of cotton to come off the top that will remain attached to this body that will then become the neck and head stuffing. So I haven't tried it this way before, so we'll see if this works. It may not, and I might be frustrated and just be nice to me. So I'll put that guy there. Okay, so right off the bat, I made a tube. Great. I wasn't really expecting anything different. So, you know what, let me just not have that as much. Okay, so there's the bottom of the body. These are the shoulders. Alright, this is the front. I can feel, because I made that slightly, looks like making sushi. Yeah, kinda. Oh yeah, I could have the cool, bamboo mats. Maybe this would be easier. Okay, and then I have my weird neck, which is not a very tight roll. Interesting. Okay, this is interesting. So, I'm not sure if this... Well, for one thing, I can make this half the size, so let's just... Meh, get rid of that. I don't love this. Let's edit this. Let's play with this. I love this. So, okay. Let me take a pause. Let me reassess, since I'm trying new things. I like how the body feels overall. The bottom has some kind of extra fluff around it, but I think that's okay. I think that'll work. The neck is the part I'm concerned about, because I usually kind of pull the neck up. You know, I pull the whole mass through the neck, out through the mouth to get that stuffing in place. And I want to make sure it doesn't fall off of the body. And that this isn't too much cotton. It looks okay. So I'm going to take this cotton that I just picked off. I'm going to re-roll it and kind of add it to those shoulders to give it a little bit more strength, I hope. This is different. Yeah, I mean, it's good. That's what we're doing. We're trying new stuff. Learning new things. Do I want a little more? Yeah, I want a little more. Let's unroll some of this guy that I made. I had this absolutely amazing volunteer for a good long time named Zari, who would make the cotton sheets, and she made them with corners. It was practically, it looked like cloth when she was done. It was absurd. They were so pretty. And sometimes if she was having a rough day, she would just sit there and make sheets of cotton and not do any other project, which is fine. If people are on tilt, I didn't make them work on a project. Like, oh my god, like, oh, I'm sorry your day sucks. Now go make a museum quality specimen. Like, no, it doesn't work that way. But they, you know, they could still hang out and answer questions and be nice to my public, which was pretty cool. And she would often just sit and work the cotton, and it was pretty cool. Okay. Interesting, fascinating, different, weird. Different is hard. I'm trying not to lose any more length here, but I'm trying to narrow this just a smidge. I feel like I got a big fat neck. This is different. Okay, so this is interesting. So this is the teardrop shape that I like. This is the teardrop shape that usually leads to a really good bird model. I'm really happy about that. It feels very different. The neck doesn't feel quite as strong still, but I haven't tested it, so it might just be fine, and I might just be paranoid. You know, it's a new technique, whatever. The rest of the body seems fine. I don't think I'm going to wrap this in cotton cable. I could, to just try to hold the whole thing together. Nope, I already changed my mind. I think what I'll do... let me suss this out, you guys. If I put a little bit of cotton wrap, or the cotton cabling around it, that will create continuity. So that way I could have a continuous tension and a continuous fiber through the whole thing and potentially up through the neck. I don't want a ton. I don't want it perfectly wrapped up. But let's try this. I don't know if it'll work. This one I'm actually going to tie a knot. I really don't want it to slip, since it's, you know, providing strength to my final dude here. Alright, let's see where this goes. This is continuity. Oh, plus 10 points, Meganura. My god. Yeah, yes, 100%. Continuity. If I could cheer you with bits, I would. I don't know if I could do that from here. I don't know, can I? No, you cannot cheer your own channel. Okay. I would. Just imagine that I would. Okay. So there's my little body. Here's... Whoop, come on, buddy. Here's my bird. And let's get that original body out just to kind of give a quick comparison. So... You don't have to cheer yourself, but thank you. Oh, you got the package! Good. All right. Good. I'm glad to hear it. Okay, so I didn't make the body as deep. You can tell that this guy's got a really deep keel. This one doesn't. I actually might go back and edit that. Width-wise, though, I feel real good. That looks pretty on par. But let me... Where's my... How deep do I have to make this chest? Here's the other thing I haven't done a lot in the past. Thank you, Not Here. Thank you for 7-Up. Appreciate it. I don't take enough measurements of these little birds, and I really should be doing this more. So the body depth is 38 millimeters. How deep is this? Nothing. This is like 31, so I need to add a little bit. So let's just do that. Let's keep messing around here. Let's make this amazing. What could go wrong? Actually, lots of things could go wrong, but the bird's dead. Bird don't care. That's something I have to remind myself occasionally. Like, and I have to remind my volunteers sometimes too, is the bird is dead. Like, the things that I could screw up are embarrassing and wasteful and sad and all those whatever. But in the end, the bird is dead. I haven't made that situation any worse. And so I can potentially, you guys, thanks for the love fest, everybody. You're all wonderful. But I might as well try to get the technique better if in the end I'm going to get a better specimen. It's better to take some risks because I'm not risking the life of a little critter. That part's over. That ship has sailed. But I am potentially getting better art and science out of this, which, you know, be pretty cool. But, oh, Mega, I'm glad you got your package. So that means that with mailing stuff around the country for the holidays this year, everything I sent arrived to every state that I sent it to, including Hawaii, except Ohio. So I'm sorry, Ohio. I hope the U.S. Postal Service in your state recovers soon and you guys get your stuff. That's rough for everybody, including the postal workers. Like, nobody's happy about that setup. So keep trying. It was the most pristine box you got, including one from a neighboring island. Oh, not here. You got mail from a week ago today. Nice. Yeah, no, Ohio. It's rough. Oh, most stuff gets bashed up. Yeah. I mean, honestly, they warn you when you read the instructions on how to send stuff through the U.S. Postal Service. They warn you it has to be able to like drop 6 feet because they have the big conveyor belts and whatever that do that. And it's like 6 feet. Yikes! But it's not like they don't warn you. Okay, there. Check that out. I've added a little bit of an extra keel here, which looks darn silly, if I might say so. But here's my calipers. Yeah, okay, now it's the right height. Maybe mushed a little bit. Okay, so this looks ridiculous, right? This doesn't look anything like my original bird, but it is starting to actually come together. And the nice thing is, of course, no one can see this stuff from the outside of the bird. So the fact that the structures on the inside are just wonky and weird, it doesn't hurt the science. So, well, not here. I'm glad you got any mail, because if I recall, you were saying that you hadn't received, like, any mail at all for a little while, so that's good. Hopefully that means a dam broke somewhere and, you know, the mail will flow. That doesn't work. We're just going to walk away from that. The mail must flow. No. Ooh, I don't know if this neck is going to work this way. We'll find out. But it's really short and thick when I'm used to having something a little longer for this step. This is where I need my continuity to actually function the way I want it to. Oh, no, it's working, okay. Hey, okay. That's... Oh, I think this might work. Guys, I think this might work. Okay. That fits in there really nicely. Actually, before I put that any farther, cable, I want to get a bit of cable behind my backbone so I can tie it to the body, which is another one of those new things that I'm trying to get better about experimenting with. Because I've got the backbone actually pretty nicely placed right now against the tail, so I don't want to pull it out and tie it onto here, which is what I've done for previous versions of this. Can I get one more loop under here, maybe? How fancy can we get here? Maybe too fancy. That's okay. Okay. Oh, I feel good about this. I think we're going in a good direction. I feel pretty good about trying this stuff. So, and this is actually something that I've been meaning to do on one of my midweek streams, and I've had so much stuff I want to work on I haven't gotten to yet, is to create a body form like this that is modeled after a stuffed animal. I have a couple of cool beanies here that I'm not going to touch them because my hands are a little dirty. but you know, try to model it after the beanies to just be like, okay, visually, can I just copy this shape and can I create the sculptural form based on this? So that's something I hope to make what would be the taxidermy body form of a Beanie Baby at some point, but we'll see. Did I get the skin caught? Yeah, I did a little bit. That's okay. All right. What is going on there? Okay, I do have a little slipping down here, which I don't like. So slipping is when you get the very earliest part of decomposition. I think I'm seeing that down here, but I think it's a small enough area I should be able to cover this up and be done pretty quick. So not great, not the worst. What is great is this body, so how tight is that? Oh, guys, yeah, look at that. Like, right off the bat, that's a bird body right there. That fits on there really nicely. Let's get his head and back lined up. The neck is a little empty. I can put some padding in there to fill that in a little bit. Yeah, the neck, this is the, okay, so with this new style, this new technique that I'm trying, I like everything about it, except it's leaving the neck a little wanting. I gotta figure that out. Which, for today, just means I'll just put a little cotton in there. You know, done. Easy peasy. But for futures, I might need to address that differently. Okay, yeah, this bottom is just sitting correctly. Like, I haven't sewn it together, I just pushed it together, but things are, like, just lining up really well. The top is a little weird because of the understuffed neck. So let's put a little bit of cotton in there. This one's hard because when you're adding cotton after the fact, so I just want to stuff a little bit extra in here, you don't want to just take a ball of cotton and jam it in there. It inevitably just sticks out and looks like a weird cancerous growth. So you want to take thin little filaments that look like nothing and put them in there and lay it over what you already have. And I might have to do that more than once, but it's about doing the really slow additive as opposed to just trying to succeed in one shape. Whereas when I added this this guy onto here, it was one additive shape because I still had it out here. I could get the shape right. But once it's in the bird, you gotta slow it down and do it in increments, or else you'll end up with weird blob monster things. Try to avoid weird blob monster things. That feels better right off the bat. Okay, that's good. Okay. There's a bit of the body form that's just like this weird thing. I'm just gonna trim that dude off. I don't need that in my day. Goodbye. Okay. And the bottom is pretty good, actually. I have a little bit down here I could use some more stuffing too. So again, I'll just put layers in. You don't want empty gaps. You don't want empty voids in the skin. The skin will dry funny or possibly crack. And so that's not useful. You want to have something in there at least. Give it a little more strength. I think that looks okay. Did this bottom tear? Why is this acting funny? Oh, and I have to move my legs up. That's a funny thing to say. The leg bones right now are like laying along the back here. I want to get those loosened. There we go. And not twisted. Which, okay. So the leg bones ideally I want to be up here a little bit. I actually want them kind of tucked into the body here. And this is another one. Ooh, I didn't do it this time. But can I still not? Really? Yeah, I can kind of fake it. If I can have them actually incorporated in the body a little bit, like sewn in or tied in, that's better. And this is another one where if I let the legs just hang down the entire length of what the tube of skin that was their thigh skin and whatever like that would allow, they would just wobble very strangely. Because, of course, a limp animal sits differently than one that has muscle tension and is holding its legs in its natural position. So I basically have to mimic the way that birds have their legs, you know, always kind of tucked up by just moving the leg bones higher up in the body. Which I pretty much have because this is working really nicely. So I'm going to put a little cotton over that to help it stay in place. And that should be fine for the leggies. Let's start sewing this guy from the top. I'm worried that the bottom is being a little strange, so I'm just gonna, because I lost some feathers down there and I don't like that. So let's start from up here. And I'll start from the top or the bottom, every specimen differently. That's always very singular to that specimen. I try to go from the winningest area to the toughest area. Whatever that means in that specimen. Sometimes they're all winning, so I just find the winningest. Sometimes they're all tough, so I just find the winningest. You know, it's a continuum. I put a little cotton on this just because it was pokey. I think that's fine. All right, no, let's just start sewing. I'm going to stop wondering if it's fine and make it fine. So, got my nice light yellow thread. Why is it light yellow? Because that's what I happen to have available. Boop. At some point I'm going to use up all of these weird bits of thread that I have in my house, and then I will go to just using black or white. but not right now. This is more fun. As long as it's cotton, it works. This one is definitely double-threaded. It's a nice, strong, big bird. I don't have to be super delicate with how I sew it together. When I was doing a warbler earlier this week, and that one, it was a little bird. That guy I had to go very slowly and be very careful with how I was sewing it together. But not so with the ginormous robin. Once I get through these specimens for the Nature Museum, I have a couple of really messed up squirrels, and those I'll be able to kind of play with some of the sewing techniques and stuff on too. I don't know if these squirrels are all going to work out. They're roadkill, so right there, swirl of squirrel, you've got some issues. And, you know, I don't know how old the specimens are, so when I get in there, they might just fall apart. They're going to be a mess. But luckily they're not, those aren't research specimens, so I can screw around with them a little bit more, and results may vary. Which is fine. Alrighty, little friend, let's get you started to be sewn up. What is that? That is gonna go over there in that pile. There. So the nice thing, too, with this bird is, so far, it looks like this is going to stay the case. The skin has been staying really nicely moist for me. Dry skin is bad. Dry skin rips really, really easily, and I haven't been seeing that with this guy. And so, even though I kind of let it sit for a minute, both to pick all of the fly eggs out of it at the beginning of the stream, and, then while I'm making the body, it's stayed nicely wet. It's another benefit of working on a larger bird. And that's one of those things, like, I've never done really big mammal taxidermy. The biggest mammal I've skinned was a beaver, but I haven't... The pelt is a horror... It's covered in meat. It's in a freezer. It never got finished up. We ran out of time, so I got it off the body, but I didn't detail it, and I certainly didn't stuff it. So the largest thing I've stuffed has been a squirrel. And did I do a rabbit? No, I think the squirrels are still bigger. And so I imagine it's a completely different thing trying to stuff a big mammal. And, you know, there's so many people out there who do deer prep that, you know, to get the big trophies and things like that. I don't know a thing about that, but it sure seems like it would be easier because it's not going to dry out on you in 20 minutes. P.S. I will not be doing deer prep. This room is too small. So if anybody's like, you should get a deer, that's very sweet. No. I have nowhere at all that I could both store it before I started, while I'm working on it, nor after I finish. So there'll be no deer prep in my tiny Chicago apartment. Though, I suppose I could dream. Because it is legal for me to go pick up a roadkill deer. I could just go tootling around, and if I find one on the highways of Illinois, it is legal for me to pick it up as long as I report it. However, see previous comments about nowhere, nowhere, and nowhere. So. Man, though, I have to imagine picking up roadkill deer is a great thing if you're just trying to learn. Like, you know, your effort is just getting the dang thing into your car or truck, and then everything after that is learning, you know. How do I prep it? How do I whatever? And if it's in good condition, you get steak. Or at least burgers, I suppose. Like, is there a venison fillet? I'd imagine. It's just a muscle group. Has anybody ever had venison fillet? I've had ground venison. Well, I know at least a couple of you guys are vegetarians, but when I think of deer meat, I usually think of it being ground up. I guess I don't know if anybody steakophies deer meat. There's a lot of those, like, big, interesting critters that I usually see them in ground meat form, not steaks. Not here, you've just had jerky? Yeah. Okay, so jerky at least is like a full piece of meat. It's not pre-ground, but it's still just jerky, so who knows where that came from. Yeah, I don't know the answer to that one. I have to imagine you can have a venison fillet. You can have filet mignon de venison. I speak French. But I guess I don't actually know that. Because it could be that if it's just tough, you know, you're not going to want it in steak form. If it's chewy, getting it as a fillet doesn't do you any good. You're going to want it ground up or otherwise tenderized so it's more pleasant to eat. So. I got to have very, very, very fancy steak yesterday, now that we're on the topic of food and steak specifically. My in-laws got us Omaha steaks for Christmas, which I hadn't thought about Omaha steaks in a million years. I didn't even know they still existed, but they do. And so we had fancy center cut, whatever, blah, blah, blah stuff. And made that yesterday, and it was stupid good. And I'm never gonna grill again. I'm done. I'm over grilling. I like a lot of things about it, but when I really think about it, mostly what I like is the smell. The end result is almost always not as good as what I could do in a skillet. And I'm not saying other people shouldn't grill. If you guys are better at it, then more power to you. That's not what I'm going for. But for me personally, I think I'm done grilling. I think everything's skillet forever. Meganura, you said Brian says venison should have basically any cut beef has, right? Same muscles. A friend of ours has hunter friends and often has a freezer full of venison livers and steaks. Okay, yeah, because the steaks, even though you have the same muscle group, it's the same section. It's the question of if is it worth eating as a steak or is it too chewy, basically? Is it tough? Because if it's tough, then you're not going to bother having it as a steak. But also livers, really, livers. I mean, okay. That's just me showing off the fact that I don't eat guts. And that's another one I actually think I should. It's kind of wasteful to not eat guts, but not a thing I do. Okay, well, in completely different news, dang, that looks like a bird, and I'm really happy. So I'm going to keep going with this, and so far I'm really, really happy with my new techniques. With knowledge that I got some work to do. Yeah, grilling, I don't know. I think the greatest benefit I've ever had from grilling, other than there's just a different place that you can cook food and or you can do it outside, which is pretty great, is it smells good while it's cooking, and it does have a good smell on your food often after. But, man, I don't know. I can basically pull off all of that between my good cast iron skillet and my oven, and I feel it's more energy efficient to do it inside my house, and it tastes good. Not here, you're saying sausage is best on the grill? I don't know. I think there might need to be a cook-off. I'm not convinced of that. Because, if you want the little char bits, you can do that on a skillet, and it'll generally be juicier if you're doing it on a skillet. You're just losing less moisture because the one side is more sealed in. I feel like you have just better control over the heat. I don't know. And there's stuff I haven't tried, obviously, but Meganura, hey, you're with me. Your favorite way to do veggie sausage is, butterflied or coined on a skillet. Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think of stuff. There's a few things I haven't tried to do on a skillet, which I've done on the grill. So, grilling pineapple to add to, burgers or things like that, or to just freaking eat because grilled pineapple is great. Grilled pineapple, I've only ever tried to do on a grill. I haven't done that in a skillet, but I have to imagine that you would just caramelize a greater amount of it in a skillet, and thus it would be amazing. I don't know. I'm really getting out of the world of grills, and part of it is I haven't had consistent access to a grill in a long time. Corn on the cob is very good on the grill. Yes. But I just like corn on the cob. I think I like all forms of corn on the cob. But again, is it mostly the smell? That's what I'm saying. When you do corn on the cob on the grill, you get the smell of the charred husk, and it smokes a little bit, so that is a point in the favor. But do you feel it tastes different, or has tastes better, or has a different mouthfeel, I guess, chewing it? Is that better on the grill? Or is it just the smell? Not here agrees with you. And let it be known, I will go to all y'all's cookouts when cookouts become a thing again, and we can test all these theories. I think it's a great plan. In the Earth that will be, when cookouts become totally normal again, I'm happy to absolutely test all these theories. Being proven wrong by eating delicious dinner is the best way to be proven wrong. Yeah, no, everybody. Like, I've already mentally spent so much money on travel in 2022 and 2023 that it's getting silly. Ooh, you like to clean up from the grill, you never have to clean the grill. That's because you have someone in your house who enjoys cleaning it. But yeah, my castle in the clouds for the next couple of years is actually just like modes of transit and all the traveling I want to do. I was texting with my uncle in California a little tiny bit yesterday and talking about that a little bit, and like he was like, we should come visit you, and I'm like, I should go visit you, and you know, like everybody is like, as soon as in the Earth that will be, when we're back to doing lots of travel, like I think it's just going to be nuts. Because I haven't traveled extensively in a while. I've been so busy with jobs and cats that needed medical attention and things that really restricted that now I'm like, no, I got a deficit to build back up. Ooh, okay, here's an interesting problem with my my model. It wobbles a little bit. Can I fix that? Just mash him down. Okay, I think I fixed that. So that's interesting. So my nice little body form that I made was sitting on top of that big chopstick, which means there was a good, like, millimeter or two gap on both sides. So it's just resting on that weird chopstick, and it was a bit of a wobble to it. But I kind of just mashed the whole thing down, so it's now around the chopstick, and that seemed to work. That's my secret technique. When in doubt, just smush it a little bit. Well, overall, I still continue to be happy. I don't like how much this bird keeps listing to the side. I'm going to have to play with that, I think, once it's sewn up all the way. But overall, doing the larger body this way is definitely cool. And I got the idea for doing more body forms in this style literally from looking at taxidermy specimens, like legacy taxidermy specimens at the museum that had been sliced open so you could see how they were put together. And I'm like, yes, thank you. Yes, that's very cool. So, Meganura, you said, have you seen the old spiritualist photography where people have ectoplasm coming out of their mouths? That's the stage of this bird. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the dragon stage, smoke, or yeah, ectoplasm. Yeah, that's one of those things. I'm so busy down here, I'm not looking at his face, so I don't see how weird that looks, like, even though I put it there, and of course I'm aware that it's doing that. So here I can adjust that. Let's make that a little less creepy. I don't need that much string. Alright. So there, hopefully that's just a smidge less creepy. Man, I still think that neck is understuffed. I might go back to that, but not right now. Let's get him sewn up. But yeah, I totally know the cool pictures you're talking about. Okay, so I'm down to basically the end of where his breastbone would have been. Now I'm down to like weird belly material. And this is where I think I might have just a little smidgy of early decomposition. Shouldn't be a problem. I just gotta, remain aware of it. Because the most likely things that it does is cause the feathers to fall off, which is a bummer. And the tissue is slimy and might fall apart. So, none of those things are good, but they are surmountable if I'm paying attention. I'm still thinking about grilling. I don't know. I like things in skillets because you can caramelize stuff. I keep going back to that. Like, and I did these steaks the other day, so these are like nice. They're not the other day, literally yesterday. They're nice. They're really good steaks, and I put a dry rub on them about 45 minutes before I cooked them, and they had. I oversalted it. I'm going to just go ahead and own that one right now. But salt is delicious, so I'm not super mad. But I put a lot of salt in this dry rub, made a dry rub, set it out. So it had 40 minutes to do its thing. And then we followed the instructions that Omaha Steaks recommended because, they've been doing this for a long time. And I figured that was a reasonable bet. And this was kind of cool. So I have really nice cast iron skillets that I'm very, very proud of. And so we seared the meat on one side for a couple minutes and then just flipped the two fillets over, or whatever there was, two steaks over, and then took the entire skillet and put it into a hot oven. And so they were, totally seared on one side, flip them over, they start to sear on the other side, you pop them in the oven, waited like 8 minutes or whatever, and took them out, and they were done. And completely amazing. And it was great because you have this crust on it, this nice crispy crust from the salts and whatever juices had come out, and the herbs and all of that, and the oil from the skillet and whatever, and that was the jam. Because being able to get those caramelized crusts, like, that's way better than, in my growing opinion, because I have opinions, than just like the marks, the sear marks. You have, the whole thing is sear marks, and the sear marks are kind of the point. Okay, yeah, he's got a little bit of a bald spot, but I'm not going to try putting more filler down here, too. I think that'll just be a little bit empty, and that's okay. Because I don't want to stress the already stressed tissue. Do I need another stitch? I don't think I do. I think that's done. Okay, let me tie this knot off. Alright. Sheridan Mom, you said you still have some styrofoam coolers from when you guys used to order Omaha Steaks. Yeah, no, those coolers Those are the jam. And I'm super sad. We got this very sweet gift, and it came in the Omaha Steaks really great little cooler, but we ended up giving away some of the stuff that came in the order because it wasn't gluten free, and we can't have gluten in this particular house. And so in order to properly give away all those side dishes and stuff, I gave the person who accepted them the cooler and also the dry ice. And like, I know it was the right thing to do. It was the classy thing to do. But the cooler and the dry ice that comes with it is like, what, 2/3 of the joy of getting Omaha Steaks. So, oh well. I actually have to check in with them. I don't know. I never heard if the... it was like mini apple pies and a potato bake thing. I hope it was delicious. Okay, so what do we got going on? It's still not totally happy with the stuffing up there, but down here I think I'm going to tie these feet together with... do I have just a piece of cable? Hey, you know what? I'm going to ignore those feet for a minute. Let's take care of this. So, the whole body, it's got a little bit of a wobble to it. It's not bad. Okay, I think I'm over worrying about that. This is empty here. Like, these are kind of, I can reach in and I can touch the bar, and there's like these little pockets. I feel like there should be more, so let's just put a little bit more cotton in here in the rudest way possible. Oh yeah, that immediately feels better. And a little bit more. Okay, it's still a little skinny. I think for future versions of this model, I need to up my game a little bit on this, but overall, I think that guy's pretty good. Alright, so let's get that mouth shut. So I don't think... yeah, I'm not going to screw with that anymore. Let's get that mouth shut, and the legs together, and then I'll get my pin board, and we'll go in that direction. But, I mean, that's a robin, right? You know, without getting the feathers all in the right spot, that's a bird. I'm pretty happy with that. Looks bird-like to you. Okay, we're good. Birdish. A birdish bird. Okay, let's see. Alright, so I've got that little loop of thread through his face so I can hold his beak shut. Yeah, that's probably too tight. His palate's pretty soft, they don't need to be that firm. Okay. I don't think I screwed up his whiskers. I love birds that have whiskers. They're so cute. Like, I think I can zoom in enough that you guys can see the whiskers on this guy. They're great. A lot of birds have whiskers. And everybody talks about whiskers on cats. Birds use them for exactly the same thing. My face is really close to this food thing I'm trying to catch. How do I catch it? I catch it with my whiskers. There they are. So this is a juvenile, so keep in mind they're not as pronounced, but you can see these little hairs up here. These little bird whiskers. And he's got them kind of all along. There's a bigger one that I could see that I hadn't tied down over here. There you go. Those are some big old bird whiskers. And they use them for exactly the same thing that cats do. It gives them sensory input as their face is close to something where their eyes can't see it anymore, but their whiskers can sense it out. So if they're trying to grab a bug or something, or if they're in a dark, crevice or things like that, they can feel around with their whiskers. So yeah, for anybody who hasn't seen them, bird whiskers. And a lot of birds have whiskers. Like, that's a pretty common thing. And they are technically feathers. Like, the difference between a feather and a hair, I was kind of looking into this on Tuesday. Very minute differences. There are technical differences, but there are feathers that are just one single shaft, so it's effectively a hair. So it's basically, like, what it's made out of is a little different. And how it grows is a little different. But, yeah. It's cute little feathers and his cute little whiskers. I got those preserved. Okay, let's get his legs together. Owls often have pretty pronounced whiskers. There's just so much going on in an owl's face that, like, no one's looking at their whiskers. They're there. Doing that thing whiskers do. Okay. So that's my bird. Looking pretty okay, actually. Okay, so it is 8 o'clock my time. That's not bad at all. I am going to take a 5-10 minute break to drink some water and flip my workspace. Obviously, I've got all this stuff spread out here. I need to clean this up so that I can get my pin board over here and get this guy in his final pin and finish his data and things. So just a quick 5-minute break on my part. I recommend it for you guys too. Make sure to stretch, drink water. It's good for you. Boop, boop, boop. I will be back in a minute. See you soon. Okay, I am back. It is cold out on my stairwell. Like, these birds aren't frozen per se, but they're real cold. Which I think is fine. I don't think it'll harm it. That's a little different. So it's nice to look at the stuff that I've already been working on. So here I'll give you guys a quick tour. Boom! For anybody who hasn't seen them, or hasn't seen an update, we have a magnolia warbler over here, a mourning dove, big guy, and then the little chestnut-sided warbler that I did this week. And they're looking like they're drying really, really nicely, and I'm pretty happy. So one thing that's come up is I just took it for granted I was going to be dropping these off to the collection sooner, without thinking about things like, again, Christmas, the very existence of Christmas and things like that. And so I gotta find a space to put my bird at, and I went and kind of filled him. So I'm gonna actually move this little warbler to this side. So I'll have the two of them over here, and then I'll have this side for my big robin. And that's a dumb mistake, I know better, but I got spoiled because I'm not sharing the drying rack like I would be at my my lab. It's just me, so I'm like, oh, I don't have to leave room for other people. I have to leave room for me. Dupe. So, mistakes were made. Whatever. I'm still getting used to this. Ooh, that came up nicely. Little friend, did you dry perfectly? Tell me you dried perfectly. Or don't tell me that, because you're dead. Oh, he's got one feather out of place. Alright, so this is great. This is worth a quick show off. So this is a study specimen. As you can see, he's got that nice flat back. There's one feather out of place on his head, which I'm really not happy about. But good shape. And you can see how strong it is. I'm just rolling it around and it's staying in exactly the same position. So this is now completely dried. This is 100% successful. This bird has been stuffed with a good strong body so that it can still move. It can be picked up and examined, but it's not changing shape. It's not altering the feathers. It's holding the position that I'd set it in. So I'm very, very, very happy with that. Like, many varies. All of the varies happies with this. So right now I'm going to pin them back over here, but I don't have to put in the effort to make sure the pins are, like, structural. They're just making sure it doesn't slide off my pin board. Easy peasy. And I can tell that there's a few things that I had set up that changed that I wouldn't have wanted the way they are to be perfect. Like, you guys can kind of see this little wingtip is sticking out here. That's not great. I would want that in. I suppose I can just tuck it. Yeah. I can tuck it in a little bit, but it's mostly dry now, and so it's not going to move a lot. That's okay. It's okay. Alright, and then I have these little hoops I made that help keep the drape off of it. So now that means I have this whole area that I can put my robin on. Because robins are huge, boom, and it takes up like that whole spot. So, there's that. Here, let's actually move you. Let's do this. And then that's going to fill my board. I have a no data bird that I was hoping to do with this batch, but I think he'll be on his own board. Which is fine. If I plan for it, it's alright. Alright. So now, getting this robin to be gorgeous. It's already pretty good. This is a nice little... This is a great example of a juvenile robin. The plumage is in good condition, mostly. It had its weird fly egg issues, but overall, in pretty good shape. And I can tell the areas where I clean those fly eggs out because the feathers don't want to lay quite as nicely because I screwed around with them so much. But overall, it's fine. It's not gonna greatly affect the quality of this specimen here. So all I'm doing right now is I'm sort of just kind of grooming him the way that a living bird would groom itself, where you're just kind of constantly fussing with and moving the feathers around. They'll want to fall into the right patterns, more or less. I've got a few that are being, again, a little bit weird here, but... Aw, Chardon Mom, thank you. Overall, that looks pretty good. That looks pretty good. Yeah, I think it's a bird. It's doing bird stuff. It looks birdish. Pretty happy with him. Those really nice wings. I mean, they've got... Juvenile robins are just a cool look. Like, the gray with all these little... It almost looks like fireworks going off. You know, the little lines with little explosions at the end. They're pretty. In a kind of a weird monotone way. But the adult plumage on a American robin is pretty sharp. With the big black head and the rufous chest and all of that. They're very striking birds. Okay, so this little guy, there's his back, and so I want to get those back feathers done first, and I want to get them laying in as close the position as I can to being perfect, so that when I set it down like this, they're mashed into place, and will maintain that patterning just in a flat state. And this was actually an interesting point of debate in the lab, early on when I first took over the lab, was... Do you want to have the back flattened? So you guys saw with that little warbler, that back is flat. It's completely flattened from being mashed against the board, which is, of course, not what a bird looks like. However, if their back is flat, they don't wobble. And so if you are the collections manager pulling the drawer out or pushing the drawer in, you don't want the birds going and rolling against each other. You want them to just, you know, zoop, zoop. Technical term, as you open the door. And so, ooh, I almost forgot to do a leg tag, and I didn't totally forget. Let me get this head on a little bit here, and then I'm going to get a leg tag. So people had been experimenting with making the bird bodies rounder, and then after hashing it out with the director of the collection, it was like, no, actually, we don't want that. It is more natural looking, but it's not as good of an archival specimen. Okay, so let's make a tag before I go any farther. And actually take a moment to look at my data. Okay, so for everybody who was following the fly egg saga, I have wounds to the right side of the skull and left shoulder, skin torn. Correction: upon closer magnification, skin intact, fly eggs present in those areas. Possible abscess on skull, no wounds seen on shoulder, eggs concentrated in feather track. And then I'll say, upon final cleaning, eggs removed, no, I guess no damage. We'll say no damage. No damage on shoulder or skull. Yeah. It's because I ended up writing wrong. My first observations were incorrect. And it's okay to have that written on here. A future person who's looking at my data will actually find the kind of the progression of my observations potentially valuable. So even though I was wrong and my wrong observations could just be struck from the record, it actually, like, here's what I thought I saw. Oh no, wait, it was just the fly eggs smushing everything together. Isn't that weird? Is pretty good data. So it's okay that I was wrong. And I just documented figuring out that I was wrong and my updates. And so now I have that on here. I don't have any other updates for right now, so I'll move that to the side. So I have to create a leg tag. There's that. Okay. I just trimmed my fingernails today, and so I have a note card on the table next to me, and I cannot pick it up. I'm gonna get it. Okay, there. It's that very first day after you trim your nails, you can't pick up anything. Like, just sheet of paper, you're like, no, it's just slippy. There's my tag. I swear, I tend to make larger tags for larger specimens and smaller tags for smaller specimens, and that's silly. It should be uniform. It's okay, they're temporary. If my skill is not in tag making, my life will go on. Alright. So I have this written on here. Alright, so this is Turdus. Turdus. Migratorius. Migratorius. American robin. And then AF-504. My handwriting continues to be abysmal, but there it is. And did I put all the thread away? Yep. Yep, I did. Do I have a cable? Can I use cable? Cable too thick. Yeah, the cable's too thick. I'd rather get some thread out. Let's use the really, really yellow thread I had. Like, that is some sunny yellow thread. What is that? If I can find an end. So I made just a ginormous mistake when I was taking my break. I went and had a glass of water and a cookie, and now I just totally want another cookie. Clearly I gotta finish this up so I can go have another snickerdoodle. My snickerdoodle recipe that I used for Christmas this year was from the graphic designer at the exhibits department at the museum. She is great. She's just one of those, like, some people just have too many talents. Like, if you're really talented in one area, cool. That's, my jealousy can handle that. Be talented in your one thing. If you're talented in, like, 6 different arenas, that's unfair, and you need to spread that talent around to other people. And Tara's one of those people who's just, like, talented in a lot of different arenas. And so she's a former butcher who ended up in museum graphic design. So there's a couple of, like, and an amazing cook overall. And last year she was part of the cookie bake-off that we had at the museum for volunteers and staff. And one of her cookies was just these really absolutely solid snickerdoodles. And I finally got a chance to make her recipe this year. She has some really elaborate ones that I got the recipes for, too, that I've been too much of a weenie to try. But I might have to. Her stuff is all so good. But generally, I can make a snickerdoodle. They're basically just sugar cookies with cinnamon on top. And, like, I got that skill. I can make a sugar cookie. I actually think I'm pretty good at sugar cookies, which is, again, they're like the simplest cookie, but there's some nuance there. I think I do a pretty good job. Okay. So now my bird has a leg tag. Now I can get to pinning it the rest of the way and then not have to move it later when I realize I forgot to put a leg tag on it. Rock and roll. Oh. Ooh. I did a thing. Oops. Ow. Ow! This side of my neck just decided it hates me. Ow. I mean, I'm willing to believe I was holding my neck in a weird ow position, but... Whew. Usually I'm a little more aware than that. Well, sorry. Pause. Technical difficulties with my neck. Ow. Ow. Okay. Sorry, guys. Did you know I live a mostly sedentary lifestyle? Alright, let's get this guy pinned. So already looks pretty good. Let's get those wings tighter in. In other holiday news, I have, not here. Yeah, no, you're totally right, man. Oh. Thanks. I think it's Frank Sinatra. But, you know, I've been listening to Christmas music, as one is wont to do, and there's like a jazzy Christmas song that has the refrain of Santa's coming down the chimney now. And it's the holiday season and Hoop-de-Froo and Dickory Dock and whatever. And I have that song in my head right now, and it's a silly one. But I like the silly ones. They can't all be Trans-Siberian Orchestra. Like, honestly, if my holiday music was just changing between Trans-Siberian Orchestra and, like, the Mormon Tabernacle Choir, that's not bad. But I really like the goofy pop music, too. So... Okay. I think these feet are going to give me a little trouble. And that tail. This bird's going to give me some trouble. I wonder... I feel like I tried this... Oh, okay, let's try having the camera there and make sure it doesn't fall, but... And the trick here is I have to remember it's there before I move the styrofoam that it's currently sitting on. So I'm trying to get the tail feathers to sit right, and birds' tails have this little coverlet, which you guys can sort of see. You can see this little triangle of gray feathers here. There's this coverlet that goes over the bottom of their flight feathers, so it's basically covering their butt, or the very back of their butt. And I like it when I can get those settled nicely, because then I put the feet over them, and it's like I don't know, it's like the lettuce that you put your appetizer on. That's a terrible example. I try to get them settled first, then I'll pin the feet down, and then I won't be able to edit them again. And so I want to get that coverlet to look cute before I do much else. I think I did okay this time, but these big gnarly dinosaur toes. I always love talking to people about the fact that, you know, modern birds are dinosaurs, and like you can't look at a bird foot and not at least understand where I'm coming from. Even if I can't convince you off that in that moment, fine, that's legit. Look at a bird foot. They're dinosaur feet. They're everything we've ever imagined dinosaur feet would look like, because they are literally dinosaur feet. And it's always funny to me. And like if you're at a zoo and you're looking at a like an ostrich, it's dinosaur feet. Or specifically some dinosaur feet that could, like, kill you. Ooh, that did it. That's nice. Okay, now I feel better about these feet. I managed to get one pin in that's finally getting them to start sitting in a position that's going to be really good, I think. Let's see, that looks okay. Let's see, can I... no, there's not really room for my camera anywhere else. Trust me, the feet are good. Here, I can quick fly over. But that's what you're going for. You want them to be even, where the fingers are more or less the same length apart. Crossed, so I've got them crossed right here. And within the silhouette of the tail. So they're not going to catch on other birds in the drawer. They're not going to catch on other specimens. So it's this nice, tidy little shape of feet where they're really nestled in there, but you don't want them hidden. The feet are actually, the toe pads are one of the best places to go and get DNA from a dried specimen. So the best way to do DNA analysis is with fresh muscle, fresh tissue. But if you're going to do it on something that's been sitting around dried, you usually get something out of the toe pad. I do not preserve fresh tissue out of my specimens because the institution I send them to doesn't have storage of that type. They don't do genetic analysis of birds. They don't have that sort of setup, and so there's no reason for me to preserve it. And so those data are not optimal. And that's the choices we make. I'm trying to figure out exactly which preservation technique we're doing. I really like that shape. Like, look at these big breast muscle, and then it just shoop goes right down to that nice flat belly. That's doing what I wanted it to do. The head is a little, like the neck's a little long. I think I could have done that. Overall, the neck is the part that I feel with my body form, my new type of body form, I'm not 100% happy with. That feels a little long to me. It looks a little stretched. It's not bad, though, especially because robins are thrushes, and they're known to, like, if you imagine them walking around, you can really see them moving their neck around, and it's not like little perching birds where sometimes they just look like little bird balls. They're like juncos. If you see a dark-eyed junco, it's like this little spherical gray bird. Even though they have a longer neck under there, they're always crunched up. Whereas a thrush like this, they do tend to walk around with their necks out a little bit more. So it's not... If I'm going to have one with an elongated looking neck, I'm okay if it's this species. But as I seek perfection, that's something I think I might change. Keep working on that neck. And his great little speckles look so good. That's great. Those are good speckles. They're almost polka dots. The best polka dotting on a North American bird that I know of is the northern flicker. It's a type of woodpecker, and they absolutely just have polka dots. They're perfectly round. They're so cute. Northern flickers are great. I recommend Googling it if you've never seen a northern flicker. But the speckling on a juvenile robin's not bad. But it's a speckle. It's not a polka dot. Oh, switch hands. Oh, Meganur, you're rough. Okay. My dominant hand is my right hand. I'm moving to my left hand. I will attempt to do this for at least 30 seconds to a minute. We'll see how I do. Oh man, this is already weird. Okay, well, I'll do the parts that are easy, wiggle quotes. So down here I've got some puffy pants. You can see these gray feathers that are coming up here. They shouldn't. And so if I can cover them get them a little more incorporated here. And this is good because it's on the side where it benefits my left hand. I guess having a little bit's not bad. Oh, man. That's a bummer of a channel point payout. Why did we do that? What a terrible idea that was. Oh man, I can't even know how to hold the pin. Ah! Yeah, I have a strongly dominant right hand. My left hand does some pretty okay stuff. I can use chopsticks with my offhand, and I'm very proud of that. But, man. You know what? I think having a little bit of the poof actually show is not too shabby down. Because it looks good on this side. So I won't mess with that too much. Oh. This is hard. I'm still doing it. I'm going to keep going as long as I can while I finish up this little bit here. All right. All right, Meganura Orca, I hope that was satisfying, making me switch hands. I'm going to flip the whole thing around now. I want to look at the other side of the bird. This is, of course, a little tough because this is the side I want to see. All right. I'm glad you enjoyed that. Let's get this side. Yeah, this wing is a little bit weird. I'm glad I checked this. Oh, quick stretch. Yeah, hadn't seen that. Thank you. Yeah. Like, my arm even feels funny when I try to make it over focus on something. Alright. Man, you guys are having fun with those channel points. I'm glad. That's what they're for. Literally the purpose of channel points is whimsy and fun. Okay, I'm actually looking at this other side now. I'm pretty... Not that... my camera's in a terrible spot. Well, okay, you can kind of see it. Getting over here is not bad. That wing is actually laying pretty okay, and I'd gotten the plumage... Even though I was working on the far side, I'd actually gotten it largely to sit where I wanted it. Okay, overall, that's looking like a robin. That's actually pretty okay. I've got one feather here on the side that's being a little weird. I think it might have been something that was affected by the fly eggs. So I don't know if I'll get this to sit totally right. And it's not bad actually already. If I can just push this in. Yeah. I think that's fine. Okay, then I think that this bird is done. So, right off the bat, let's get a... Alright. It's more or less... Man, okay, wobble cam. So it's pretty straight. You know, you can kind of describe a line from the tip of that beak down the center, through the legs, and then down through the clefts in the tail. And so I don't think he's got a particular twist to him. Maybe a little bit, but I think it's within spec. You can clearly see that top girdle of the speckles and the lines that they make, and I'm really happy with the overall shape there. So that's pretty cool. His feet look really good. And then from this side, like that body shape, I am so happy with that body form. Where you can clearly see that big flight muscle, and it kind of peaks sort of mid-bird and then slides down towards his belly. And of course, as we know, that flight muscle is not there. That's entirely reconstructed, and I'm pretty darn happy with that. And you know, I'm coming more to peace with that neck. I'm happy with how that came out. So yeah, overall, that's looking like a completed specimen. Cool. Yeah, no, I'm pretty happy with this guy. He came out pretty okay. So let's move this aside. So we have to get our final data. You know what? As soon as I moved it, I see something I don't like. Hold on. I feel like I could do better on this wing. I just want this a little tighter to the body. Alright, I'm gonna stop screwing with it. Okay. So now I'm gonna change my overlay back to gross. Boop. Alright, so final part. Meganera, you are warned. Anybody else who's not into guts, be warned. Guts are coming up. Time to figure out the bird's sex and what it last ate. And then this specimen is a wrap. So, if you guys have not watched me do this, I am literally going to cut the bird's old torso open and mess around in its innards. So if you're not into that, don't watch. But it's cool to listen to. You'll get to hear me go, ooh, and find fascinating things. Alright. Here's my tools. Okay. So basically start from down here and start cutting them on open. Okay, so keep moving that stupid thumb out of the way. Bunch of intestines, no one's surprised. Move those out of the way. Ah, nuts, the bottom of his intestine is still attached. Lego. So this bird is a juvenile, so I actually might not be able to sex it. The gonads might just be so underdeveloped it won't be obvious, and you don't know until you get in there. Oh, those are bubbles. I'm like, oh wow, are those ova? But no, they're bubbles. They're just bubbles in the shmoo. You know what? I'm gonna get my fancy goggles. Not only because they're fun to wear, they have a light on them. I can use the extra light. Oh no, did my light die? Oh no, I must have left them on. Ah, nuggets. I really like that light. What kind of batteries do you take? Take AAAs. I don't have any of those right now. Oh, well. Okay, so looks like no extra light, but at least I've got a little bit of extra magnification. So. Because what I'm seeing is two kind of smallish dark structures in here that are nestled up against the back of the body. And my problem here is that they might be testicles or they might be adrenal glands. They're small enough and they're in the same spot that it's a little hard to tell. So, like, if anybody who's been on when I go, oh, those are testicles, like, they're birds in mating season, like, fine. There's no question of what you're looking at. But for a juvenile like this, it's harder to tell. And so it could be gonads, or they could be adrenal glands. And the trick is if you can then definitely, like, find the other thing, like, oh, there's the other structure, those are definitely adrenals or whatever, then cool. Oh, my lighting is so bad. Okay, they are testicles because I could find the adrenal glands. Thank goodness. I wasn't sure. Okay. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to make this so that you guys can see it. Yeah. Trust me, they're in there. Okay, let's get some measurements. Okay, so sex, male, I think it's just, yeah, length and width, right and left, so right testy and left testy, length. Okay, so it's his right, so this side. That is, wow, 5 millimeters. It's huge. 5 millimeters long, and then width. The width is 1.5 millimeters. So it's a weird oblong thing. Whereas the left testy is a completely different shape. The left testy is 3 millimeters long. And the width is 1.5. Same as the other one. So those are very asymmetrical. Alright, whew. Actually, I probably shouldn't have taken those off since I'm doing stomach contents, but whatever. I can do this one gloved. Okay, so we have a confirmed male. And then this, let me slide a little closer. This big jelly bean of an organ right here is his gizzard. So let's cut that open, see what this guy has been eating. Wow, it's really packed in there. Oh, it's really wet. That's interesting. What is in here? So thrushes generally eat insects, but I think they can eat plants too. I don't recall, so I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to find in here. Wow, it's really wet. I have never seen one that had this much fluid in it. I wonder if this guy, like, just had a drink of water before whatever happened to him. Okay. What is this stuff? There's like long pieces in here. How much? Yeah, you guys can see that. I think this is fruit. Maybe? There's like thin skins. There's these little round jobbies. Like that looks like a seed to me. I think this is fruit. I think I'm looking at, yeah, like fruit seeds and fruit skins, and that might be a stem or some sort of stick. Okay, so I'm not seeing insects in here. I'm seeing fruit. How interesting. Okay, that's not what I expected. I expected bugs. But then that my quandary of are thrushes omnivorous seems to be yeah. Oh, no, this is an ant. That is an entire ant right there. Well, almost an entire ant. I think it's squishied on one end. Okay, so that's an ant. Here, wait. Put these guys back on. That's cool. Okay, nothing else looks like bugs. Everything else, I'm sticking with fruit seeds. I'm pretty sure these are fruit seeds and, you know, like plant skins, like berry skins or something like that, and twigs. And then this one just humongous, kind of reddish ant. Big long legs. And actually, it is the entire ant. Its head is over here. Can you guys see it on the screen? No, it's off of me. So this right here is an ant. And abdomen, thorax, head at this end. So that's just an entire dang ant. That was pretty cool. Okay, so let me move this aside enough. What am I doing on space? Man, I've been filling in a ton of space on here. Gut contents. Gizzard. Very wet. Contents. Many plant seeds. Possible fruit skin. How would I describe these long pieces? These are like just fibrous, long, fibrous oblong pieces. Because I don't want to say like berry stem. I really don't know. I'll go on a limb and say berry skin or fruit seeds, like, because seeds come from fruit, so that's redundant. I think these are like the stem ends, but I don't want to say that, so I can say oblong. Fibrous, tough bits. Longest one is... How big is this big guy? It is 16 millimeters. 16 millimeters. One ant scene. And this guy is... Four millimeters long. Long, thin legs. Yeah, the ant has really noticeable long, thin legs on it. Let me see how much I can zoom, because it's neat. Oop, no, go back. Ah. No, too far. Well, fine, I'll just move the camera. But there, right? That's an ant. Like, let me turn him a little bit here. Get this head out a little bit. There we go. I'm of course trying not to just rip it apart with my huge human strength. But yeah, so that's a whole entire ant pulled out of this thing's gizzard. And it must have like just eaten that for it to be in such just fantastic condition. So that's cool. And then like, so you guys can see the little things that I've been calling the plant seeds. Like, there's one. So that's just a little berry seed. You know, so most of the stomach is full of these little seeds. And associated matter, but then there's my one cool ant. And so I'm not going to save the ant. I don't have a way to do that. That would be valuable to the institution that I'm sending the specimens to, so I'm not going to try. If it was going to be saved, something this small, especially since it's been partially digested, it's not going to be a good specimen anyway, but you could keep it in alcohol if you really wanted it, if you were doing some sort of study. But most cases, you don't keep invertebrate stomach contents. They're just going to fall apart. So it's nifty to look at when you're in the lab and you want to show everybody and it's fun, but it's not. The science doesn't really live there if no one's doing a specific study. So, okay. So I think that's all the data for this guy then. So, ooh, a 901. Ooh, look at that timing. We got perfection right here. All right. Excellent humans. That is the end of the robin. So we have a juvenile robin, totally prepped, skinned, pinned, and analyzed. It was male. It was covered in fly eggs. I think they were just fly eggs. I will ask some follow-ups, and I did actually keep them. For anybody who missed that part, there they are. So many fly eggs. Those probably don't have any scientific value specifically, but I'm kind of curious, so I'm going to ask some entomologists if they have any thoughts on those, just how many there were, but whatever. So I'm going to wrap it up. I'm heading out. Let's go see if there's anybody we can raid, because raiding is fun. And I want to see who's around. If anybody has any suggestions or otherwise wants to plug their own channels right now, please tell me. I'm always interested. Who we got? Let's see. Oh, Frecked Chemist is on. She rated me the other day, so that seems only fair. I think she's playing with her new 3D printer. So, alright. So, everybody, thanks for hanging out with me. As I wrapped up this specimen, this is one of my last ones I have for the Chicago Academy of Sciences. For right now, I might be able to get more before my licensing runs out, and I'm hoping to get my own federal licensing. Here's hoping. See what that looks like in 2021. But I have the salvage license from the museum until May, or from March, so I've got a minute. But for now, good night. Happy holidays. Happy New Year if I don't see you next week. And let's pop over here and do raid channel. Alright, let's go raid her and see what she is up to. But good night, everybody. Have a good Saturday. See you next time.